Okay, we are going to get started.
Can't hear you.
All right, good afternoon and welcome. This is the July 7th, 2026 meeting of the Landmark Preservation Commission. We will call this meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. We have some audio tips for virtual participants. For better sound quality, we strongly encourage you to download Zoom on your desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile device. Click audio settings to bring up an additional menu, add a background noise suppression, test your speaker and microphone, adjust their maximum output volumes. For presenters or public commenters, when it's your turn to speak, to mute or unmute, click on the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen. Expanding the menu next to the microphone will reveal additional options. Select your speaker and microphone devices. Test your microphone and speakers, adjust their maximum output volumes. If you are still having audio challenges, switch to phone for audio. Moving on to today's agenda. We will start by introducing the commissioners. My name is Bree Saman. I am the chair of the commission and I am an interior designer and project manager. Next we'll go to Chris.
Chris McGinnis, forensic architect, and I was nominated by the mayor's office.
Nick Fusianis. I'm an architect and developer, and I was nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
I'm Jane Chrysler. I am an at-large member, architect, and principal with EUA.
I'm Kelly Ream. I'm a planner, and I was nominated by Denver.
I'm Lars Bildman. I'm a general contractor. I was nominated by the mayor's office.
Elizabeth, if you want to go.
Sure. Elizabeth Caswell-Dyer. I work with historic buildings and I was nominated by History Colorado.
And I'm Brittany Bryant, Denver Landmark Preservation staff.
Okay. And a reminder, as someone in the audience has already reminded us, we'll want to be sure to speak up so that folks can hear us who are joining virtually, and then also people who are joining us in person. And we also have a microphone today, so that will help as well. All right, we're gonna try the microphone. So moving, okay, so that was general comments. Do we have any comments from from other commission members or from staff before we get started? No? Okay, so moving to our meeting records for approval.
Sorry, do you want to announce any parte conflict of interest?
Yes, I do. Is this working? No? Okay, it's back on now. All right. Would any commissioners like to disclose ex parte or conflict of interest regarding any of the applicants that we have today?
So I do not need to recuse myself, but my firm did have early conversations with the design team for Mosquito Curtis. That's on the agenda today, but it does not impact my review of a fair review.
Thank you, Kelly.
I had as my time on Curtis Park Historic Review Commission, I had previous meetings without the board on the subject, but it should not affect my rulings.
Thank you, Lars.
Say specifically for the pool house, because we have two park items on the agenda.
Okay. So for both of them to clarify.
Yes.
Okay. So Kelly, could you clarify, since we have two Curtis Park projects, could you clarify?
Sure. And to clarify, that was the pool house.
Okay. And Lars, could you clarify which Curtis Park project you're referring to?
The pool house.
Thank you. Okay. trying microphone again. So moving on to meeting records. Do commissioners have any comments or clarifications regarding the minutes? Just leave it though, all right. No microphone, I'm gonna project. Do commissioners have any comments or clarifications regarding the minutes for our meeting held on June 16th, 2026? Okay, hearing no objections, the meeting minutes are approved. So next, we will be moving into the public comment period of our meeting. Members of the public have up to 2 minutes each for comments about historic preservation in general and items on the consent review agenda, design review agenda, business items, and discussion items. Further comments on these topics will not be taken later in the meeting unless allowed by the chair. To speak, click the hand raise button in Zoom, dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if joining by phone. Email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number if you are having difficulty with either hand raise option. In regards to the agenda items that we have today, we anticipate that there might be a few of you here specifically for the Curtis Park, the pool house. And so we are going to accept comments in order of the agenda items. So I'll read those through. And if you have a comment regarding any of those projects, please either raise your hand in the room or raise your hand, or we'll start with those in the room and then we'll move to Zoom. And you'll each have 2 minutes for comments. So we'll start with the consent agenda. Does anyone have a comment they'd like to make regarding any of the items on the consent agenda? Anyone on Zoom? No, okay. So moving to design review agenda items. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment regarding is there anyone that would like to make a comment regarding the Mestizo Curtis Park Pool House? Keith, I saw you first. You want to come up?
Are you gonna go, do I get 2 minutes on that and 2 minutes on the other Curtis Park agenda item, or do I only get 2 minutes on both items?
2 minutes per item.
Appreciate that, thank you.
No, is it all one?
There's one.
No.
It's
Either
not
way.
2 minutes per item, it's 2 minutes total.
No,
speak.
no, that's not how it worked before.
We're going to proceed with 2 minutes per item.
Okay, I appreciate
Yeah.
that,
That's right.
that's why I asked. So for the pool house, Mestizo Curtis Park Pool House, I am the chair of the design review committee. We did meet with the Parks and Rec department and the city of Denver. We have been working extensively with them. We have met 3 times. We as a neighborhood and a coalition do prefer brick. We prefer our medium red brick. That has always been our stance for new commercial or new infill into the neighborhood. But we have worked with the city and the products that they have chosen because of graffiti that they're preferring. We have come up with a color palette that we feel is acceptable and works within the community. We do appreciate that the city did work with us in coming up with custom colors that better reflect that found in the district. We do have a few questions and concerns for you guys to go over. How are we dealing with grout line? If it gets tagged, how is the grout line dealt with? The stacking of the material, so it is cut into more of a brick format for the field, but it is a brick and it is 2 versus stacking. And so how is the stacking going to be related? Because it's going to be 2 sets of stacking. So those are some of the things that we're listening and eager to have you guys debate and see what you come up with as far as our questions and concerns for the material. We understand through Crystal that this obviously would not be a precedent-setting piece going forward for other projects that do come forward in our district. That is also a big concern of ours. But those are the questions that we feel like you guys need to really kind of work through, and we look forward to that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sue Glassmacher. I'm from the Mestizos Curtis Park Community Coalition, and we're the group that's responsible for the whole project. And when Parks and Rec saw that landmark wasn't fluff and that you were serious, they got serious finally. And I think we got a very good project out of it. I think it fits in very nicely, and the wall is broken up in a way that it will be really distinctive, and the long wall will not, won't be all broken up, and that was a very good way how they did that. And I don't mind the tile because it's a swimming pool, and so if it has a little bit of a sheen, I think that's just fine, because we're not trying to be Curtis Park, we're trying to reflect Curtis Park. And it's gonna reflect a little bit. And I think the color's great. They did a great job on that. I think they did an excellent job on round 2. And I thank you all for helping us.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Eileen Feltman. I've lived in the Curtis Park community for just shy of 50 years. I also serve on the Mestizo Curtis Park Community Coalition, but what I'm saying today is my own personal view. So I did send you guys a little note, kind of what I thought I was going to say, but in general, I am asking the commission to actually deny the use of the Spectra glaze, and instead compel them to use historically compatible brick. In Curtis Park, the character defining material is brick, and the guidelines strictly discourage synthetic alternative materials that mimic traditional masonry. And that's what Spectra glaze is. And I do appreciate the fact that Denver Parks and Rec did, even though they funneled all the conversations to only be about Spectra glaze and nothing else, even though we asked for beatings of brick, when we were funneled into those conversations, they did allow the community to pick colors that best represent it. So I acknowledge that. And there was a lot of work done on that, but yet there was an absolute wall put up with any conversation with brick. Their argument is that they could do it in brick like they did with the CMU structural and the brick over, but they're concerned about graffiti. Well, that maintenance argument kind of collapses under scrutiny because they plan to leave sections of the building as the raw scored CMU brick for future murals, which they will simply paint over. And the truth is, if they can manage the graffiti risk on that, they can manage brick. There are plenty of both sacrificial and non-sacrificial sealers that can go on the brick. And I would urge the commission to help steer them back in that direction. The thing about I noticed on the Spectra glaze, even some of the samples in the photos, scuffs and scrapes show it has a higher sheen. And I do, so, while I can appreciate their maintenance concerns, we have civic buildings around there. We have a firehouse, even though it's privatized now. We aren't hit with all that kind of graffiti. And I really feel that lowering standards under the assumption that neighborhood will deface its own assets is discriminatory planning.
Sorry to interrupt, but your time is up.
Okay, well, thank you. Bye-bye.
Would anyone else in the room like to make a comment? Okay, is there anyone joining us virtually that would like to make a comment?
Ashley, you should be able to unmute yourself, and if you want to turn on your camera, do that as well.
I'm traveling on the road. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, we can.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yes, thanks. I would be there in person, but I'm traveling back from the Pacific Midwest, so I couldn't do that. I forwarded written comments objecting to the use of this Spectra glaze glazed cinder block approximately a week ago to Jennifer Capato, who was to get them to all of the commissioners. So I assume that that has been done. I'm incorporating those comments here as part of this record today. I won't go over that completely, but I am objecting to the use of a glazed cinder block. That material is not traditional to Curtis Park. And throughout all the meetings, it became clear with Park and Rec that their sole motivation in promoting that product was for the convenience of their maintenance department. And we were literally threatened with refusal to clean off graffiti if any material other than the Spectra Glaze material was authorized, and that person was Emily Ziegler. Now, it is not the job of or the responsibility of the Landmark Commission to bend its rules and requirements to fit and accommodate Park and Rec's maintenance department. That material, in my opinion, is experimental material utilized in an experimental process. This is a huge project. Typically, it's done in small little bathrooms or whatever. They had no answer to how that material was going to hold up to any kind of damage other than graffiti. And, you know, they've been getting graffiti off of brick in our neighborhood for years and years. And our neighborhood, historic neighborhood, should not be penalized because the maintenance department wants to try some experimental products in our neighborhood. The other comments that I have, I think you can readily, read out of the material that I submitted, but I would strongly object to the usage of this experimental glazed, Spectra glazed cinder block, and would encourage the commissioners to use a more traditional brick format. Thank you. You've had to put in way too much work.
Your time is up, Ashley, but thank you so much for sharing your comments.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other comments from our online attendees? Doesn't seem so. Okay. Is there anyone in the room who would like to make a comment regarding 2724 Arapahoe Street, Curtis Park F?
So this project, the applicants, you originally had denied this project. The applicants, I feel really, I had worked with them on just speaking as an individual and not as the chair of the design review committee, because this did not come out to us as a design review. But I did work with the applicant, and the applicant really did listen to your comments and your concerns and really worked diligently with staff on getting this tightened up. And so that they really have taken the feedback to heart. They changed a lot of things. They really reduced the height, the massing, and they reworked the windows. And so I think what you're looking at today is a really nice contributing piece. It's going to be a nice addition that really adds to the district, but does not distract. And so I do encourage a yes vote on this project because they did listen to your comments and your concerns, and I really feel like what they're coming back with today really hits the mark, and I ask for your approval on that, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments regarding that project? Anyone joining us online who has a comment regarding 2724 Arapahoe Street, Curtis Park F? And then is there anyone joining us in the room who has any comments regarding 568 North Clarkson Street, Alamo Placida? Anyone online? No? Okay, does anyone have any comments regarding any of the applicants that we have in the violations portion of our agenda? Anyone online? And then the last item would be of the business items, 1840 North Grant Street, Cathedral High School. Does anyone in the room have comments regarding that applicant or application? Does anyone online have any comments? No, okay. Okay. And we'll make one last call for general public comments. Okay.
That's an applicant.
Neil, I think you're an applicant, and as an applicant, you will get 10 minutes to present. Which project is this?
568.
So after the staff presentation, Neil, you will get 10 minutes to present, so you don't need to speak now. Do you have general public comment though? We can hear you, Neil, if you have general public comment.
I'll wait till the applicant period, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so moving into our consent agenda, these are routine projects that Landmark staff has determined meet the design guidelines for Denver landmark structures and districts and are recommended for commission approval without discussion. The commission may approve these items as a group. However, any commission member may request that an item be removed from the consent agenda to the regular design review agenda for further consideration. The chair will announce the consent agenda items by address, then ask if commissioners desire to remove any items from the consent agenda. Removed items shift to the meeting's regular design review agenda. The commission will make a motion and vote. If your project is approved on consent, you may leave the meeting. So we have number 2026 TAXC 1559 North High Street tax credit. Number 2026 TAXC 016 2250 North Hooker Street tax credit. 1340 North Pennsylvania Street National Register Amendment. Do commissioners have any questions, comments, or wish to pull any items from the consent agenda? If not, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes. So moving to design review, these items require individual consideration by the commission and are reviewed and discussed separately before a motion and vote is taken. The chair will announce the design review agenda items by address. Staff will introduce the application and recommendation. Commissioners may question staff. The applicant will present and be limited to 10 minutes, and then commissioners may question the applicant. We will have staff clarifications if necessary. The commission will deliberate, make a motion, and vote. So first up, we have 2026 COA 692-978 32nd Street, Curtis Park G.
Awesome, thank you, Bree. So this is for the phase 2 design detail submittal for the new pool house structure and 2 new in-ground pools at Mestizo Curtis Park near the corner of Champa Street and 32nd Street in the Curtis Park G Historic District. The applicant, Denver Parks and Recreation, is approved to demolish the existing 1951 bathhouse and pool at 3181 Champa Street, as seen here on the screen. This demolition was approved on August 5th, 2025, and is contingent upon a replacement plan. The phase 1 submittal for this project was approved at the April 21st, 2026 LPC meeting. Next slide. So now we'll go through some of the new design guidelines relating to phase 2 of this project. So design guideline 4.2.3 states to design a building to include the typical features and rhythms of historic buildings in the surrounding context block and using similar proportions and dimensions. The new civic pool house structure includes typical features and rhythms of the historic buildings in the surrounding historic context. The entry location and canopy faces the street, like the surrounding historic context, and will be enclosed by a simple vertical metal gate when closed. The shadow box window proportions also match the height and size of windows typically found in the district and on Italianate structures. Lintels and sills have been added to the windows to match historic configurations, and the shadow box windows will be inset 2 inches to match window insets found in the district. Scaling elements such as simple metal cornice, as well as a foundation and belt course, help add horizontal articulation. At the right here, you can see the previously horizontally articulated cornice from phase 1 outlined in orange, which has been further simplified and is now a simpler preformed steel cornice that unites the different height modules together rather than having a slightly different cornice at the different height modules. Next slide. Design guideline 4.2.5 states to design a new building to be recognized as current construction while respecting key features of the historic district and surrounding historic context. The new pool house structure utilizes that simple interpretation of the Italianate flat roof style that's typical in Curtis Park. The shadow windows, again with the lintels and sills, stand in for traditional windows at the different facades, and a simple metal roof cornice and top middle base configuration to the structure match design elements found in this style throughout the district. At the right here, you can see the proposed cladding of the glazed masonry sizes, as well as the vertical scores that are proposed to be added to these masonry units, which is to mimic brick styles found in the district. Next slide. So design guideline 4.2.7 states to use materials that appear similar in scale, color, texture, and finish to those seen historically in the district. The new pool house structure is proposing to use a new material that is not commonly found in the historic district, that is this glazed masonry material. The glazed masonry is being designed in size and color at the front facade to match the look of standard size light to medium red brick that is commonly found in Curtis Park. You can see the proposed colors here on the right side. The rear elevation facing towards the pool area is proposed to be a muted blue color of glazed masonry, which is not common to the district, but adds a contemporary differentiation to this new structure. The base 2 courses of the new pool house are proposed to utilize a larger format masonry unit, 8 inches high by 16 wide, establishing a visual foundation relating to the heavier stone bases commonly found in the district. The primary middle section of the pool house structure is proposed to transition to a running bond brick pattern using 4 by 16 units with a vertical score at the center, allowing the assembly to read as a traditional 4 by 8 brick module. This approach maintains compatibility with the historic brick proportions and colors while utilizing a new material. The masonry will be assembled with a traditional struck joint, and the struck joint will also be applied to all of the vertical scoring in the bricks for a Curtis Park appearance. The vertical scores, as shown on page 06 of our application, are deep enough for the grout joint to appear indistinguishable from the actual grout joints according to the applicants. Although this is a new material, glazed masonry, the proposal uses a simple combination of this material on the structure, and the new material is made to have the appearance of brick, which fits the surrounding context of the district. The masonry will use a light to medium red color at the street facing facade to match traditional brick colors found in the district, while the rear poolside facade will use a distinctive blue color, which will help the building read as new construction. The applicants provided existing examples of the glazed masonry used in the Denver metro area over the last 10 to 20 years in this application. And although this is a new material for Denver's historic districts, it does appear to be weathering well and withstanding the test of time from what we could see in the application. Additionally, while Landmark staff is supportive of this glazed masonry material for this specific structure, this pool house structure in the park and in this context, Landmark staff do not believe it would be appropriate for use on any new or existing residential, or commercial structures found in the historic neighborhood context. Next slide. Design guideline 4.2.8 says to design windows, doors, and other features to be compatible with the historic contributing primary structures and the historic context. The pool house structure does appear to have door sizes that match others found in the district. Doors are all proposed to be metal, steel, or fiberglass. The new structure has a limited number of window openings that are strictly for allowing visitors into the pool area for use and for safety reasons at the lifeguard station and break room facing the pool area. No other windows are proposed on the structure. The applicant has added these shadow box windows with proportions that match the height and size of windows typically found in the district and on Italianate structures within the historic context, and added simple lintels and sills to these inset areas on the structure. The shadow box will be filled with 2 different colored types of blue glazed brick-like masonry to add a contrast, and will be inset 2 inches into the wall plane and have a stacked brick style in these shadow boxes rather than the running bond on the rest of the structure to add dimension to these elevations. Next slide. Design guideline 4.4.4 states to maintain the typical historic entry patterns along the street. And the new pool house structure has one main entrance from the street into the facility like other structures in the district. The entrance design for the civic pool house structure does convey a sense of scale and visual interest and is a modern interpretation of a metal canopy design for a front porch. And then here you can see the new vertical metal gate entry that stands at 9 feet 4 inches tall. This will match the vertical metal fencing that will also surround the pool area. Next slide. So at the top here, just the intent statements for new structures, which Landmark finds that this phase 2 submittal meets that it is, as it is new construction that is compatible with the historic district, but also is a new building that is differentiated from the surrounding context and can be recognized as current construction. Below the intent statements here is the proposed front elevation facing 32nd Street at the center. Here you can see the front facing elevation with this proposed glazed masonry. The applicants are proposing to clad the front facade with 2 different red colors of glazed masonry to match the brick colors commonly found in the district. And then here you can see the shadow box windows with lintels and sills can also be seen, and the main front porch entrance. And at the bottom is the rear elevation with that change in color to a blue glazed masonry that'll face outward towards the pool area and the park. And then here you can see many of the previous phase 1 louver locations have also been removed, only a few remain. Outdoor shower locations have also been added to this elevation, as well as potential art mural locations. Next slide. Here's the main entry at the bottom left, and then side elevations for the pool house. You can see the large vertical metal entry gate again, as well as the open trellis above that main entrance. Next slide. Here's the proposed site plan for the pool house with the 2 new pools. A new 2-foot-high planter area is proposed in front of the main entrance with rain gardens on either side of that main entrance. The pool area will be enclosed by an 8-foot-high vertical metal fence with a gate into the park and a gate off of Champa Street. Concrete paving will surround the pool areas, while some trees and grassy areas will also remain, and 3 new shade structures are also proposed. Next slide. Here at the top is the proposed roof plan with the porch, canopy, and open trellis area being that main entrance to the pool area. And below that, you can see the new proposed floor plan. Next slide. And then here's an isometric view of the front facade of the structure showing that proposed red glazed masonry area on the front with the modules having a slightly different red color on each one. And then you can also see the proposed art mural locations and the planter walls and main entry. Next slide. And then here's an isometric view of the rear side of the pool house facing towards the park and pool area. So you can see this elevation is proposed to be clad again in that blue glazed masonry with additional art mural locations. This elevation also has those two windows facing out towards the pool area for safety. Next slide. So the new one-story pool house utilizes articulation techniques found in the district on Italianate structures and fits the surrounding context. The building's cladding is a new material for the district, this glazed masonry, but the proposal mimics the red brick colors found in the district at the front facade, as well as standard brick sizes found in the surrounding neighborhood, while allowing the rear elevation to change in color to add differentiation and be recognized as current construction. Shadow box windows and doors all appear to meet historic proportions, and the new entry feature is a modern porch interpretation that fits the surrounding historic context. Therefore, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, Crystal. Does the commission have any questions for staff? Okay, then we are ready for the applicant.
Wait up your presentation, 1 second.
And is it okay during the presentation, I can stand up and point to people on the screen?
Are you okay if I come up there? If you guys have any questions, I can sit
I'm ready when y'all are ready.
Good afternoon, my name is Rafael Chavez, architect with HDR, 1670 Broadway, Suite 3400, Denver, Colorado, 80202.
Key Preservation Architect with CSHQA at 2696 South Colorado, Suite 501.
I'm Emily Ziegler, Assistant Director of Park Design and Construction, 101 West Colfax. Thank you to the Commission for reviewing our project today. We are here to present design details. During the material selections process, we met with the Curtis Park Historic Design Review Committee 3 separate times. One of which was an on-site meeting, and we reviewed everything from brick module heights to colors to the finer details such as grout color and strike. We believe the design presented today balances the neighborhood's historic character while contextually appropriate civic presence. The selected materials reflect its time and place and provides a design that uses long-lasting, durable quality products that were also supported by our team of internal experts for ease of care and maintenance. The design does not replicate its historic neighbors, but draws on them for inspiration to create a compatible and distinct expression.
Next slide. On April 21st, our team presented the phase 1 application for the Massing Forum and received approval without conditions. As a reminder, our project is located in the G District in the historic Curtis Park neighborhood along 32nd Street in Champa. Next slide. The Mestizo Curtis Park Pool District reflects a period of significance prior to and including 1915 with Italianate style selected as a primary architectural reference to align with the neighborhood's historic character. Unlike the previous historic structures as seen here on the images on the right, this project thoughtfully reflects and reinforces the area's historic Italianate influences. Next slide. The approved massing and form draw directly from the historic lot patterns of the Curtis Park neighborhood, where the 25-foot and 50-foot parcel ways were foundational for its development as seen in this diagram here. Next slide. As previously mentioned by Crystal, one of the refinements we made on the exterior was the articulation of that horizontal cornice. We worked with the R&O to refine it to these proportions that are appropriate for a building of this size. Slide.
Right, and then building on phase 1, we continued our working relationship with Curtis Park. You can see this is a very hands-on group. And we use some of our field trips to both look at how is the base articulated, how is the cylinder articulated, how is the header articulated, how does this relate to the neighborhood as a whole. So building on that form, mass, and scale, we met with the group multiple times to pick out colors, materials, forms, finishes. And we wanted to make sure that we were being as respectful to Curtis Park as we could.
Next slide. Here we wanted to showcase how the evolution of the brick in the neighborhood has evolved, specifically with the original brick for a building that was built around 1888 to one of the newer buildings in the neighborhood in our district built in 2021, and how it relates to our proposed material as shown in the example from the Paul Durda Rec Center built in 2003, showing the proportionate relationships. The modularity and the design of the brick preserves the scale and proportional language characteristic of the Curtis Park. At the same time, the evolution of the brick fabrication and installation within the neighborhood has introduced finishes and detailing that align more closely with the refined appearance of the glazed brick, allowing the material to be both contextually compatible and clearly representative of its time.
And then just one more thing to set up. Go back one slide, please. You can see here on the glazed brick, it has a slightly more contemporary look, but it has a very same homogeneous look as the Summit brick. And what we wanted to do, what was very important, is keeping that modularity of the brick that was seen throughout the park, but at the same time, we wanted to differentiate ourselves as being of our own time and current construction. So that's why we're using the glazed brick.
Next slide.
And then this is just showing some of the things we use as inspiration. And again, we're not looking at the contemporary context, but we're just building off of it. We're looking at the historic context where we were getting cues for both modularity and for brick color. So in some cases we had punches of blue, in some cases we had the raw native brick.
And correct, on May 10th, we did meet with the RNO to determine our color palette for the building. We were pulling from the medium reds in the neighborhood and light medium reds. And also looking at how the vibrancy in the neighborhood is being used on existing structures, such as the one here shown at 2752 Champa, with how they use color on the historic structures and playfulness within the community. Next slide. As illustrated in this diagram, the primary medium red will be applied to the projecting V surfaces, and the lighter medium red will be projected on the recessed A surfaces. The base is unified with a darker russet color, providing a grounded visual foundation. So the colors as shown here on the table, this is that russet red base color on that image. And then these are the color match samples that we will use for the main fields for the A and B module. Next slide. As previously noted, the design does not seek to replicate historic brick. Instead, the proposed glazed brick is intentionally expressed as a contemporary material reflective of its current construction practices and appropriately suited to the building's civic and recreational function. Next slide. Now, as previously noted, we are selecting various modules for the glazed brick for the building. We are utilizing the traditional 8x16 module for that base to give it that foundation, similar to how you see in the neighborhood with the base defined on all the residential homes in the neighborhood. We are using a half module, that 4x16 with block here, as you can see on this one below. This one will have a vertical score on that one in order for us to achieve that running bond that you see on the elevations for the main fields. And then we are using the various muted blues in the shadow windows as well as on the pool side for those elevations. We also are looking at using a darker gray mortar to help with any potential tagging on there that hits the mortar, as well as adding additives to that to help resist any potential damage. However, this is what those samples look like when that block is struck. And so those joints will look very similar to the neighborhood and joints in the neighborhood. Slide. A traditional running bond pattern is used on the primary field facades, as mentioned. In contrast, we are using that stacked bond in the shadow window openings, creating a distinct and refined field that emphasizes the elements as architectural features on the elevation. Next slide. Typical wall sections, as illustrated in this slide, demonstrate how the building's articulated planar expression is achieved through careful application and the selected materials. We are creating those depths off that wall with the various depths of the brick. So we're getting 2-inch offsets as we work through those different elements on the elevation.
There was also some concern with Curtis Park that we wanted to make sure that the epoxy that the glazing that we're using going around the brick, make sure that we wrap the corners and the tops. So anytime we see an indent or a corner, we're working with manufacturer to make sure that all those surfaces are covered and we don't have any bare concrete block.
Next slide.
Oh.
The primary facades along 32nd and Champa draw from the neighborhood's characteristic medium red palette, reinforcing the continuity with the historic context. This is complemented by a subtle introduction of muted blues in those vertical shadow windows, providing a respectful yet playful reference to the pool's recreational character. Additionally, we have identified the max locations for murals on the building. There may be a reduction in that depending on community and artists' discussions. If there is any adjustment, the design team would request for administrative approval if necessary.
Essentially swapping out where we've got areas where we're predicting for murals to be a glazed brick so that we could just infill those areas. So we'd only have areas that we could paint brick where we're gonna have murals. Otherwise, we would use the glazed brick material.
Correct. Next slide. And as mentioned, we are using that blue to reflect that poolside to really play with the recreational necessity or feature of this facility.
And we're also using the blue color to we pulled inspiration from the neighborhood. So blue is not foreign to Curtis Park. That's the reason why we were able to introduce it.
Correct. And next slide. At the areas that we are doing the murals, we are proposing that unfinished CMU or block for the murals. They will still maintain the same struck joints in order to maintain the pattern on the elevation when the mural is put on there. Next slide. The glazed brick not only has the added integrity to support long-lasting building, but it has bonus advantages. The product can withstand direct UV exposure. And additionally, if it's chipped or damaged, the surfaces can be patched and repaired without replacing the entire brick. Next slide. And as mentioned, we do have a track record with this product. It's been around the Denver metro area for 30+ years, and the visual quality has withstood the local climate and public-facing context. We are using the same module as shown here on the rec center for that 16-inch by 4-inch block on the building.
So just for a little bit more context, two of those structures, the one on the lower left and the other one on the right, those are actually large commercial buildings. So this material has been used on large commercial buildings. And then also on the right, as Raphael was saying, is the material that we're specifically going to use is going to implement or carry through that running bond pattern. So we're not going to get a stacked effect. It's going to be more of a running bond.
And you guys are out of time, but if you have a few more slides or if
Just
there
one
was
more.
a few more.
You have 2 more according to my counter.
That was a backup slide. So the Cecil Curtis Park Pool has been developed through a collaborative process with the stakeholders and community, resulting in a design that respects and complements the historic character of the neighborhood while meeting contemporary community needs. The proposed material palette supports this goal by providing a durable, timeless expression of its own time that will retain its color, quality, and appearance over the life of the building, helping ensure the facility remains a long-lasting, compatible addition to the historic neighborhood's context. That is it. I know.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for the applicant?
And if you guys need us to add a white, move stuff around, please let us know.
Yes.
I'm happy to move or show stuff.
Well, thank you for the presentation. That was, that's great. My questions are, with the glazed faces of these block so the accurate representation of how thick that is, I'm assuming is on the gray. Is it also?
Yeah, they're pretty similar. These are 1/4-inch thick glazed faces.
Okay, and so is it an integral color if it gets chipped?
Yes.
For that 1/4 inch?
It's glazed all the way through.
Okay.
Color.
Okay, and then if for some reason, I mean, it would have to, it was chipped further than the 1/4 inch. You mentioned what is the repair method?
So if it is chipped through to the face of the block here, there is a patch method repair procedure to repair that glazed face to match it and get it all fixed. Now, if the CMU block is damaged, that is more of going to be an insurance claim from.
Right, at that point, it's a major.
Correct.
Yeah.
Structural damage.
And my other question is, so where the murals are, I just wanna make sure I'm understanding it correctly, where the murals are currently shown, when is the decision gonna be made about whether or not there's gonna be murals? Because will the building be built with just an exposed gray concrete block until murals are applied?
So for the discussion on the timing, you wanna talk about that?
I mean, we've been coordinating with arts and venues on that, but the intent is that the murals would be in place at the time of opening. And that the locations of the murals would be determined early enough that if they were subtracted from this view, it would be replaced, those areas would be replaced with the glazed block.
But I think to answer your question, Jane, I think what's more important is if, for instance, for whatever reason, your process is probably gonna work great, everything's gonna work out. But if in the event, say the muralist is stalled out 2 years, the intent for HDR is that bare brick is gonna be primed and painted. The color will have to be figured out between the park and various groups at that time. But what we don't want is a bare gray finish. So I think if we need to add that into the application packet, I think it's important enough to say, because we've talked about it, the areas that are gonna have murals, we specifically called out so they can receive the paint. If for some reason the mural's installed, it needs to be primed and painted. We can't just walk away.
And if you find out ahead of time that there will be no murals for whatever reason, then you would install the glazed
That's the
CMU.
intent. So what we're showing in the packet is the maximum amount of murals that we're showing. They can be subtractive at this point, but they can't add more.
And if, again, going out there of, you can never predict what's gonna happen. But if the murals don't happen, would the glazed block that goes in that location be the reds? Would it be an accent, or would you just figure that out and come back?
It would follow the same pattern that we currently have. So if it was meant to be the lighter red brick, it'd be light red. If it was meant to be dark red, it'd be, and same on the other side. If it was
Color
meant to be
accent would go away, basically.
Yeah, we wouldn't be introducing things like green or purple as much as we'd like to see those colors. It's only the colors that you see on the table are the ones.
Great, thank you.
Go ahead.
I do have a question regarding the I guess the inset windows, the window openings that you guys have that show the blue accent of the glazed brick product. So you guys have the 3 blue colors shown here. But then on page 13, there's a note that says window infill is shown for representation only. Final colors, materials, and patterns will be determined through coordination with Denver Arts and Venues. So I was curious, could you provide just a little more information on the design intent of what we're seeing in the packet? Is the pattern what would potentially change, or is it the color that's potentially up for review with Arts and Venue?
The pattern will stay the same. It's gonna be depending on where that note was called out. If it's calling out on the mural and maybe referencing, the mural colors and design.
It's for those inset
For the inset
windows, yeah.
There are areas of the inset windows that were meant to have murals. However, it might be trying to give you more information, but it could be a little unclear. If it's within the inset area and the mural is called out, it'll be the mural that have to be coordinated with Arts and Venues. If for whatever reason the mural doesn't happen there, for like the muralist decides I don't need it or I don't want it, then that'll become the tricolored blue.
Okay, so the tricolor blue that's shown in the infill windows, that is the design intent of material and pattern. But as you're saying, if a mural is gonna end up going there, then that would be
It'll
the
be the mural.
portion that would be coordinated with the windows. Okay, thank you for clarifying.
That I don't understand now.
Yeah, right.
So-
Me too.
So there was-
They're not gonna be blue, the windows?
So for instance, here, and Raphael, let me know, it could be either or.
I think there was a mix up in our technical drawings and what we show here. The intent, I think we wanna maintain the blue in those shadow windows.
Yeah.
So they'll be consistent throughout the whole project elevation. It would just be the mural that will go around on the main fields,
Okay.
as shown in the
Got it.
rendering.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion on that one.
I think
We were still like.
I could think I'm too happy with your murals.
Yeah, I
Andy wants
interpreted
to
that
see it.
as areas with the murals, those would be covered with the mural. So I was like, I guess that makes sense if the mural's being applied to like the whole block, as you guys had shown. Yeah, sorry, page 14.
It's the note that's
Yeah,
confusing.
it's 13 in their packet though.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
14 in if you're looking at the PDF.
Where you circled the infill.
Yes,
Says
that's
it's a
this one
mural.
right there. Yeah. But the intent is they will be blue and that will be the pattern.
Yes.
Okay.
Couple things. I remember from the phase one approval, the grills, the horizontal metal grills, I thought that they had a functional purpose, some of them, relative to MEP. Was that correct?
They did, however, through further development with the contractors or the subs, they didn't need them in the locations we previously showed. So we were able to limit the locations to the pool side, to show on those elevations.
And then, so it begs the question about rooftop equipment. None is shown on the renderings. Is there an intent to have? No,
We don't have any rooftop equipment.
it's all ground. If you
It's
have
all
it.
within the pool house there. There is like one small rooftop hood, but it's short enough to fit behind the parapet.
Got it. No ducts on the roof.
Correct, ducts.
Okay, and then a couple questions were left open by the public or in public comment, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to answer those. One was how and maybe you did in the initial questioning regarding the strike joint, but I understand that the benefit of this material is you can remove graffiti, but what about the mortar joints? I think that was one of the questions. And did you answer that?
Yes, so for the mortar joints, we will include an additive in the joint specifically to help obviously reduce any ghosting on there. But we also are using the darker grout color on there, so it becomes very difficult to notice if it is cleaned. However, the intent is to really help protect that mortar as best we can with that additive.
Yeah, using the darker color more will help us. If we can't get it completely cleaned, it'll help camouflage any kind of the ghosting. One of the problems that we've seen previously on some of the lighter color bricks is if it's tagged or if it's graffitied, the ghosting always stays. It's hard to get it off. But if you have a darker color, it almost becomes camouflage. It's harder to see it.
Thank you. And then the second one, and I'm sorry, Emily, if this is uncomfortable, but there was an accusation thrown out of a threat. I'm sure it wasn't a threat, but I want to give you the opportunity to put the record straight as to what Parks and Rec's position is relative to maintenance.
I appreciate that. I think the accusation is that I communicated that DPR would refuse to remove graffiti. That was not, the communication was that it's difficult to remove graffiti. Through our best efforts on porous material, we attempt to remove graffiti, and over time, the ghosting occurs. You can see in that middle image, the lighter black color, that has an attempted removal, and it's just impossible to remove it. And DPR takes a lot of pride in maintaining our civic buildings, and we want to, we want to deliver something that we can maintain. And our concern with the porous material is that over time, we wouldn't be able to achieve that.
So it's just a question of how effectively you could clean it.
Exactly.
Not necessarily whether you would.
Yes.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So on page 25, the shadow box details C6. So I just wanted to see you're working with the manufacturer to make sure that the top gets kind of, I don't know, some of the treatment. So if we're set back 2 inches, you're saying this wraps up and over, or do they just cap it and miter it, or what does that look like?
No, they have trim pieces for all these different ins and outs moved to cover it, and it becomes fully glazed with those pieces. There'll be custom pieces for those areas specifically for those.
And where it turns the building as well.
Correct, yeah, they have corner pieces that we're collaborating with them on, and those are in our documents. Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna ask a question about the mortar joints. You say these strike joints, they look like they're recessed, at least in that one detail you had. But are they gonna be recessed or gonna be the flush joints? Cause it, like, see the middle there, that looks like it's recessed.
Yeah, they'll be more close to the traditional struck joint with the depth in there. For diagrammatic purposes, I think we just highlighted it to show that there, but the intent is to get that depth similar to the neighborhood.
I mean, so is it gonna be flush with the face of the tile or of the stone, or is it gonna be actually a recessed joint?
So the finish of the mortar joint will be coming out to the face.
Okay.
As shown here, and then we'll have that kind of concave strike.
Cause we do have some issues in the area with freestall on a recessed joint. And I was just, a little bit concerned about, I don't know how the tile is bonded to the CMU for, kind of freestall purposes, that we can get some spalling sometimes of that stuff when it's, mechanically bonded together. And I've seen that with recessed joints as well, so I was just kind of curious how it was all being detailed or taken care of.
Yeah, so the strike will be similar to the neighborhood. It'll be flush. It won't have kind of like an offset from, so you kind of see say like on this one, where you can kind of see like the inset.
Right.
So it'll come all the way out to that face there.
Okay.
On that. But these glazed components are baked in to the block. Yes.
Block, okay.
In some of the precedents, the glazed block looked like it had a higher sheen. And to see these in person, it seems like, it has less of that glossy look and it's more matte and compatible with the materials of the district. So I guess I just really like that to use this contemporary material that have that finish that's more compatible.
Elizabeth, do you have any questions or comments to share?
No, you guys have been covering it. I mean, I don't particularly find this a controversial or experimental material, and I will support how awful it is to get graffiti off of regular brick. So I think this seems like a good idea.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if no one has any other questions or comments, I think we're ready to move into deliberation.
Thank you.
I haven't really seen this before. I just found a catalog from 1971 for this stuff.
So it's been around a while.
Yeah, and you see it like even, RIP the Bonnie Bray Tavern, but that's an example of a glazed block. For a while, so yeah, I feel like it is a tested product. And while I'm talking, I'll just go ahead and say, I do think as a pool house, the material is appropriate. And I also agree with sentiments of the community and staff that it wouldn't be appropriate for a residential structure. So I appreciate the effort that has gone into the design, and I also appreciate the clear effort that the community has put into working with all the parties, because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, I'm happy to throw in my 2 cents. I support the project. I will say that I think the renderings that were in the application don't do the finished product justice. I think it's gonna be much more rich in person with natural light, having its effect. And I like the answer for the recessed windows, and that's why I was concerned that they were gonna be murals, but I like the syncopated two-tone sky. It seems like a good answer.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the block either. I think it's a nice, I kind of like, seems like a maybe a durable finish. I do have a little concern about the black mortar. I mean, it could get really effervescency. I mean, it can get really, make it bleed quite a bit, especially with the CMU backup. So I would just really, as a friendly comment, maybe really take precautions on whatever admixtures you add to it, because it can be, it can really show effervescence. Especially if you're gonna do, grout fill in your block and things like that, and reinforcing and all that stuff. But I support the project as well.
I'll just add that, just to tie it to our guidelines, that it's 4.2.7G. That says new materials that convey characteristics similar to the historic materials may be appropriate if they have a similar appearance, size, shape, and to traditional materials. And I think that exactly describes what we're looking at here, so.
Yeah, and in terms of the intent statement as well for section 4, especially regarding new construction, I definitely agree that this product, again, while it's not true brick, it does a really good job of emulating the proportions, the trying to color match or relate to it. I think that it definitely aligns with the intent statements of section 4, and as one of the commenters said, that this public structure is really trying to reflect Curtis Park. And so it being a new, and someone also brought up a commercial use versus residential use, I think is also just a good differentiator of, we're trying to respect the brick, but it doesn't have to be an exact, in this case, brick may not be the best material for this purpose, so this product seems like a good solution that is still in line with the guidelines. And I do think it's really helpful that the applicant brought samples for sure. This is a product that's definitely helpful to see it in person, especially understanding how it's being applied, since there are so many sizes, and getting a good sense of scale and with the colors too, since this has been such a large topic of the discussion today. So it's good to see it in person. If there are no other comments, would anyone like to make a motion?
I will. I move to approve application 2026 COA 692 for the new construction phase 2 design details pool house and 2 new pools at 978 32nd Street as per intent statements 4A, 4B, 4C design guidelines 4.2.1, 4.2.3, 4.2.5, 4.2.7, 4.2.8, 4.4.4, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Jane. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Chris beat you to it.
It's a delay on the Zoom, I swear.
Thank you, Chris. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Okay. Moving on to our next agenda item. 2724 Arapahoe Street, Historic District, Curtis Park F. Let me rephrase that. This is item number 2026 COA 685-2724 Arapahoe Street, Curtis Park.
So our next project is also in the Curtis Park Historic District. As you can see on the neighborhood map, it is specifically in the Curtis Park F Historic District, which has a period of significance of 1870 to 1902. This structure was constructed in 1884, and it looks much like it did when the district was designated. So this project is something that the commission has reviewed before, and overall the demolition scope has not significantly changed. With the change in the addition program, there has been some shifting of what specifically will be demolished, particularly for those rear one-story portions, some of which are historic and some of which are non-historic, which you can see on this Sanborn map here. So behind the gable massing, there was historically a one-story portion that had a side porch, and then there was an addition on if you look at the map, so, whoops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. So if you zoom in, the north side of the property is kind of open, but the south side is much closer to the adjacent property. So historically on the south side of the property, an addition was constructed, and then over time, this larger non-historic addition and low sloped roof addition was also constructed. So those will largely remain intact with the roof demolished. There will be some alterations to those facades on the north side to accommodate the new addition program, but they have been heavily modified and do not retain as much integrity as the gable and wing portion of the structure. So we do find that this is compliant with our guidelines in terms of minimizing demolition to historic structures and its historic additions, and it will not damage key character defining features with the demolition that is proposed with this project scope. And again, very similar to what the commission saw in April. So to remind the commission what was reviewed in April, here I have the elevations on the screen. It was a large two-story addition with two cladding materials, vertical wood siding and a metal panel, a connector addition between the gable, and then the two-story addition that was proposed with a large rooftop deck with a shed roof access. So the commission did express concern over this addition not being subordinate to the primary structure, nor compatible enough to the primary structure. So to go over what is proposed today, we have a much smaller addition proposed, which you can see in the roof plan. So in orange is the roof plan of the prior addition, and then to the right of that is the current addition that is proposed today. So the applicant has really done considerable effort to tuck the addition totally behind the primary structure and to sit atop the existing one-story additions that are at the back of this home. This project will need several administrative adjustments for existing conditions and conditions caused by the proposed new addition. So I'm going to go over those administrative adjustments now as we're looking at the site plan, because that is where they are shown the best. So the existing front of the home does encroach into the front setback. So staff are recommending administrative adjustment for that existing front setback encroachment. The existing structure also is along on the south side of the property, is along these, does encroach into the side setback. So that existing historic addition currently encroaches into the side setback, and the new addition that will be constructed atop that existing one-story addition will maintain that encroachment. It will just go more vertical in terms of that encroachment. We are recommending approval of that administrative adjustment as we feel that it is maintaining the historic form and open space patterns of the structure. And we did recommend that the addition be shifted to this wall to move the addition away from the north side of the property as much as possible, as the north side of the yard has a larger visibility, and the visibility between the adjacent structure to the south is very limited. So this does help reduce the visibility of the addition. So we're recommending that side setback encroachment. The addition also will encroach into the bulk plane, but I have elevations that I will show you that encroachment later, so we can look at that more specifically. The only encroachment that staff is not recommending is the encroachment of the existing garage on the north side of the property. So that is an existing structure. No work is currently proposed for the garage, and the garage, it does match the placement that is shown in the Sanborn maps, but the Sanborn maps is showing a wood structure. That structure is now stucco, so we do find that it is heavily modified, and as no work is occurring to the garage currently, we are not recommending that landmark encroachment for the garage on the north side of the property. It's not entirely clear to me if they actually do need to seek that encroachment for the garage, because it is, no work is proposed, but it may be possible to pursue other administrative adjustments because there are criteria beyond the landmark criteria that may qualify for. But the encroachments for the primary structure we are definitely recommending because it is a historic structure, and the work resulting from the addition will make those non-compliant. So here is the front elevation and the north elevation. That elevation will again have a little bit more visibility because of the larger side yard. The addition has been significantly redesigned and reduced in height and width and footprint. And staff do find that the addition does respect the character defining features of the surrounding historic context, and the revised scale, massing, and rhythm is more in line with the historic structure and more respectful of the existing gable on wing home. So we still have this connector addition, and then the new addition again will just be constructed atop those existing one-story additions. There will be some modifications to the window openings on these facades. Again, in this portion, this was historically a porch that has been enclosed, so new window modifications there. And then on this back portion, that is a non-historic addition. Just some shifting of windows, patterns, and proportions to match the historic structure with those double hung 1/1 windows. And then finally, the overall height of the addition has been significantly reduced. So if you remember in the last submittal that there was a large rooftop deck, and that was going to be screened with the same material that the addition was clad in, the applicant has revised both the access and the cladding materials. So now we have an exterior stair and a portion of the addition that is kind of notched out to accommodate that stair, so it just fits in within that notch. And keeps that exterior stair completely behind the historic structure. And then the new rooftop deck is this very minimal cable railing. And that is the only element that does peak above the primary roof structure, but in perspective view, you really won't see those elements. So here are those perspective views. The April 7th submittal is in orange again, and you can see how that visibility has been significantly reduced with this redesign. Staff also do find that this addition is differentiated from the primary structure. It does have a change in footprint and wall plane and material. Along the north side, it is coplanar on the south side, but staff are supportive of that alignment. Here are just additional views. Again, the addition has been designed to be recognized as current construction, and you can see that inset from the north additions at one-story additions at the back, and that inset of that connector piece from that gable that is on the structure, and how the structure is coplanar on that south side, again maintaining that side encroachment and bulk plane violation. So looking at that bulk plane violation, it very minimally clips into the bulk plane. I'll just zoom in. It's about 2 feet and some change vertically, and then 2 feet and some change horizontally. So very minimal encroachment into the bulk plane on the south side with the proposed addition. And that is mostly caused by maintaining that south side setback that is historic for that historic addition that is there. And then you can see that the addition, there will be some modifications again to window openings on what is a historic facade, but this facade is not visible due to the very tight property lines along the south facade. To accommodate the addition, a small one-story piece will be constructed, so there isn't an addition portion, there isn't massing here. They will be constructing this massing just very minimally here on the south side of the home to kind of support that addition. That will be clad in stucco, but the two-story addition and connector piece will be clad in this Laura lap siding with a 6-inch exposure. Will have smooth finish. And then you can see that stair and railing detail that is proposed. So we do find these materials to be compatible with those seen in the historic context. It's wood cladding and a very simple combination of materials, which has been significantly dialed back from the prior submittal with the vertical cladding and the metal panels. In terms of the window proportions, staff do feel that the windows are much more compatible with the surrounding historic context and the primary structure. So previously, the applicant was proposing a number of different window operations and types, which you can see in orange, also with divided light patterns. And those divided light patterns were previously based on the non-historic divided light patterns in the existing structure. That were non-historic, and my understanding is that those were snap-in grids, and the applicant has removed those snap-in grids from the windows in the historic structure. And they are proposing just simple 1/1 windows for the addition that do have similar proportions as those found on the existing structure with tall, narrow proportions. Most of these windows, again, will have limited visibility from the public right-of-way. But along the north elevation, you will see some of them. So finally, here are just some renderings from bird's eye view of that proposed addition and the prior submittal, again in orange, really showing how the applicant responded to the commission's comments and concerns about the overall massing, the material palette, and the visibility of the proposed addition, and really reduce that to be subordinate to the primary structure and neatly tucked behind the primary structure with very limited visibility. So at this time, staff are recommending approval of the proposed addition and also recommending an administrative adjustment for the front yard setback, the side yard setback, and the height and bulk plane encroachment of the primary structure, and not recommending that AA for the existing garage at this time.
Thank you, Brittany. Does the commission have any questions or any questions for staff?
Where does the setback and bulk plan, that also hits zoning approval, or who else hit or?
So administrative adjustments are officially approved by zoning administration.
Okay.
However, if the Landmark Preservation Commission grants an administrative adjustment recommendation, zoning administration generally grants those without much question or concern. If it can't be handled administratively, it goes to the Board of Adjustment, but these all do qualify for administrative adjustment, so the commission is allowed to adjust front setback, side setback, height, and bulk plane. You're really allowed to adjust anything, but that's generally what we look at.
The recommendation.
Yes.
Yeah, that's generally passed through.
Any other questions or clarifications? Okay, then we are ready for the applicant.
My name is Sam Bashant.
Sorry, hold
I
on.
am with Staber ID LLC.
One second,
hold on a
sorry.
second, Sam.
We're just gonna get your timer up. We wanna be sure you have full
I will not be going.
time.
I think when you're ready now.
So my name is Sam Bashant. I am the owner of Staber ID LLC at 1415 Park Avenue West. And these are our homeowners, Nick Marion and Tyler Smith. Obviously, since the last time we were here, we have changed the design up a lot. I don't need to go through everything Brittany covered, but primarily we reduced the massing dramatically. And we did so while still maintaining the integrity of what worked for the home for Nick and for Tyler. Really, as much as anything, we came in last time kind of shooting our shot, trying to figure out what we had and what we didn't have. And we appreciated the feedback we got from the commission. And we appreciate the effort we've had from the staff to help us kind of tighten up this design, take it to where it is. And at this point, seeing as we don't have any significant comments, really any comments of concern from staff, we appreciate that. We're happy to be here. Turn it over to you.
The only thing I would add is we are not pursuing any scope of work for the garage, so no need for that administrative adjustment.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions or clarifications for the applicant? No? Okay, well, that was easy. You guys are all set. We will deliberate.
Thank you.
Anyone have any initial comments that they want to share for this one?
I guess, not being in that first round of reviews, I'm impressed by the progress that's been made to make it more in the character of the neighborhood and just seeing the impact from that primary facade in the street. There's a lot tucked back there. So it's great to see it.
Yeah, I agree. There's been a lot of, as Brittany covered and as the applicant mentioned, it's clear that they've really taken a lot of the comments and feedback that they received, seems positively, and that they've really been able to come back with a solution that hopefully works well for their intent, obviously for their property, but also is in line with the guidelines. The massing and the scale was really the big pieces during our review last time. That we asked them to rework along with the windows, and all of those in this iteration have really been refined and do seem to be aligned, much better aligned.
I agree with everything that's been said.
Second.
Well, then it seems maybe we're ready to make a motion. Yeah, who can see that far?
I can zoom in some, but it's really long, it's the AA recommendation.
I'll go for it here. Madam Chair, I move to approve application number 2026-COA-685 for the addition at 2724 Arapahoe Street as per design guidelines 2.4.3, 2.4.4, 3.2.1, 3.2.3, 3.2.4, 3.2.6 through 3.2.8, and 3.3.1, 3.3.2, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report. And I also move that the Landmark Preservation Commission find that conforming with the zoning standard for front yard setback, side yard setback, and height and bulk plane would have an adverse impact on the historic character of the Curtis Park F Historic District for the existing historic structure and proposed addition per section 12.4.5.2B of the Denver zoning code for application number 2026-COA-685 at 2724 Arapahoe Street.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Moving on to number 2026 COA 549-568 North Clarkson Street, Alamo Placida.
So pictured here is 568 North Clarkson Street. It's located in the Alamo Placida Historic District. Next slide. This house was constructed in 1906 and is a contributing building to the district. The applicant proposes replacing 4 non-historic windows on the front facade and modifying the first floor paired window configuration to a single window, 1/1 double hung configuration. Staff are recommending conditional approval, and we'll spend the next 2 slides going over our findings. Next slide. So the applicant has provided evidence demonstrating that the existing windows are non-historic and that the first floor window configuration is also non-historic. The documentation submitted with the application includes measurements of a remaining historic window elsewhere on the building, with matching rough opening size to supporting the proposed restoration of the opening to a single window configuration. And staff feels that this meets design guidelines 2.4.1 and 2.4.8. Next slide. The applicant is proposing the use of fiberglass replacement windows. Fibrex is a composite material made of approximately 40% reclaimed wood fiber and 60% thermoplastic polymer, and is called out as a new vinyl material in the materials that were submitted. This is generally considered a vinyl composite window material, and it does fail to meet guideline 2.4.9. Next slide. So staff is recommending approval with conditions of this application, with the condition that revised window specifications be provided for wood, aluminum clad wood, or fiberglass replacement windows.
Thank you, Jesse. Does the commission have any questions or clarifications for staff?
I just wanted the evidence that says that these are non-historic, can you reiterate that?
Yeah, so if you go back to, I think it's the second slide, Brittany, or the third slide, pardon me. I did include several close-up photos on this slide, but also in your application, there are several close-up images that show that these are modern vinyl. From a distance, we thought that mullion at the first floor was potentially a historic feature. But whenever we got close-up images of that, it's all vinyl, it's all new.
So the rough openings are thought to be original sizes, but the windows themselves are modern. Gotcha.
And the framing material looks like as well around. You could see the joint where those, or the joint at the corners. Screws go through them.
You can see in that image that the modern depth doesn't really match the historic depth, right?
It just looks like, due to the nature of vinyl windows with shrinking and swelling in hot and cold months, that has just broken away from the rough opening. So I don't think that it's not necessarily inset, it's just broken away. The caulking around the window is broken away.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, we are ready for the applicant.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we are just gonna get your timer up and then we'll let you know when that's set up and then you can begin. Okay, you are welcome to start.
Okay, my name is Neil Stockmall. I am one of the homeowners at 568 North Clarkson Street. So it seems like the main point of concern is the material selection for these windows. I just want to give a little background or thought into why we had chosen this material. Obviously, my preferred material would be wood. However, with the location of the facade of this house being on the west side, it does get direct sunlight for almost all the afternoon. It does get brutal heat all year round and UV exposure, which would lead to high maintenance and like blistering with any finish on the wood. And the main reason why we chose this the fiberglass material is a mixture of cost and performance. This material has been around since 1992. I wouldn't necessarily consider it a new material. See on this slide, you can see it has generally very good performance regarding stiffness, decay, thermal conductivity, and coefficient of thermal expansion. I understand the main concern around vinyl is that it's a cheap product that warps and won't last. However, this vinyl composite with embedded fiber or embedded wood particles has much better stiffness. It also does not decay like wood does, so it would last longer due to without having any decay. The choice against aluminum clad wood, our main concern being, the thermal conductivity, especially the second story windows. There are across the street is just a parking lot and a single story structure. So this gets direct sunlight, and aluminum, from the experience of other aluminum surfaces on the facade of the existing house, definitely get a beating, and I do not believe would perform well and would be a good option. And the main reason we want to replace these windows is thermal stability for the house, energy efficiency, as well as keeping cost in mind. While yes, fiberglass probably does perform better in most metrics, this material has proven to perform very well. And over the last 30 or so years, this material has been being used in windows. The manufacturer themselves have switched from offering wood products to just this product due to its performance over time and its proven performance. So I would just like to propose or request the ability to use this material for our potential cost savings, as well as the proof that it has longevity, and also the fact that this material is and the windows themselves are warranted by manufacturer, and they have a backing of this product. We're not just getting cheap windows from Home Depot or Walmart. We plan on living in this home for a long time, and we are slowly making the upgrades that this house has been neglected for due to previous owners. And we're really just trying to make this work for us and also abide to the landmark and the character of the neighborhood and the house, while also having that cost sensitiveness with the increased cost of all these materials out there. I don't see the increase in benefit to switch to fiberglass just by the cost of it. I don't know if both my partners, Noah and Jake, both homeowners, are in this call as well. I don't know if they have any other notes to make, but I think that will sum up my my side of things.
Okay, thank you. Do commissioners have any questions or clarifications for the applicant? No? Okay, well, thank you very much, Neil. We are going to deliberate.
I'll jump.
Yeah.
So yeah, really nice house, and it's just wonderful to see folks taking some of these on and and fixing them up, and the rendering looked great with removing the double window. Unfortunately, the guidelines are just extremely clear. And we don't have the ability to, I don't believe we have the ability to change guidelines or make exception. And at 2.4.9 says, do not use vinyl or vinyl composite replacement materials and only wood, aluminum clad, or fiberglass. So I think, while I appreciate the owners, looking at a nicer window and one that looks nice, I don't think we have the ability to stray from our guidelines. I agree.
Jesse had some staff follow-up.
Yes.
Sorry
go
to
ahead.
interrupt deliberation.
Yeah, go ahead, Jesse.
I just did wanna note the concern with the materials information that was provided. It didn't include fiberglass, and we don't know really how this stacks up against an approvable material. Also, it only includes aluminum, not aluminum clad wood. So again, there's some question marks around how these stack up against this material. I know it is a material that's been in use for a very long time, but due to its high vinyl content, staff also had concerns over the CTE numbers. And specifically, whenever you look at the existing vinyl windows and how they're pulling away from the rough opening already, that was another concern, that since this has such a high vinyl content, that might be something that would be replicated and cause strain on the surrounding brick.
The new guidelines are coming out.
They are out and
So
adopted.
this is taking that into account.
Which we previously didn't allow fiberglass, and now we do. So that was the additional material that we added for historic buildings to give the applicants a more affordable option to wood and aluminum clad. And there were several reasons why we selected that material, but the durability is one. Also the fact that it can be painted like wood, and Fibrex cannot. It will void the warranty.
Are there any other comments, or is someone ready to make a motion?
Okay. I move to approve with conditions application 2026 COA 549 for the replacement of windows at 568 North Clarkson Street as per design guidelines 2.4.1, 2.4.8, and 2.4.9D. Presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the following condition. That revised window specifications be provided for wood, aluminum clad wood, or fiberglass replacement windows.
Thank you, Jane. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion passes.
So a lot of times the commission takes a break at 3. It is 2:44. I don't know if that break is needed or you just want to roll right into the violation.
Yeah, right. Do you want to leave?
Yeah. I think he also would like to grab.
We're holding a hostage.
This might be a good time to take a 5-minute break.
Okay. We will take a 5-minute break. We are ready to resume after our little break. Moving into our next agenda item, violations. These are items for which a notice of violation has been issued by zoning and neighborhood inspection services. They require individual consideration and approval or correction if necessary to achieve a compliance with the design guidelines for Denver landmark structures and districts. The chair will announce the violation agenda items by address. Staff will introduce the application and recommendation. Commissioners may question staff. Then the applicant will present and will have up to 10 minutes. The commissioners may question the applicant. Then we'll have staff clarifications if necessary. The commission will deliberate, and then we will have a motion and vote. The first item we have is amendment to number 2025 COA 0812535 West River Drive.
Is it? I think it's
25.
Is the address 2535 or 2534?
Oh, 25. It's 2535. Did I say?
I have a typo, I'm so sorry.
I don't think so. And then you said 20.
Oh, okay. I'm going to restate this because I jumbled my numbers. Amendment to number 2024 COA 0812535 West River Drive, River Drive. There we go.
I'm Leanne Madon, representing Landmark staff. Before I begin the presentation for the first violation item, I don't believe we have our applicant property owner present. So I think we'll do one more double check to see if he has joined the meeting. He's not present in the room. So I think we should begin by discussing whether the commission would like to proceed or not. Staff did provide the information to the property owner about today's scheduled meeting and the packet and the recommendation, but it does not appear that he has joined us. So it is at the commission's discretion whether you would like to proceed or not in his absence.
I suggest we proceed.
I do too. We'd like to proceed.
Okay. I will make the presentation. So I am here presenting an updated status on an ongoing violation that has occurred at 2535 West River Drive in the River Drive Historic District. Next slide, please. So in 2020, the current property owner received LPC approval for a simple, nicely designed, nicely scaled addition tucked behind this small historic home, including a small connector element to differentiate the new and old construction. You see the approved plans illustrated here on the screen. In this approved project, only one window in the original structure and non-historic picture window was approved to be replaced. However, once construction began, all of the windows were replaced without approval. A few things that you should note on this slide before we proceed are that there are two red arrows pointing to the windows that we're going to focus this discussion on, the two windows on the front facade. Those are the windows that have been most recently replaced and that we need to talk about today. In addition, you should note that other windows on the building are double hung or picture windows or casement windows that have 4 panes of glass. So those are the styles of windows that exist on the building. Next slide, please. In this slide, you see pictures of the home before construction began and when the violation first occurred. So you see that before construction began, on the front of the home, there were 1/1 double hung windows. And as I mentioned, they were not to be replaced, but they were. And what was installed were large casement windows. So immediately a notice of violation was issued. At that time, the property owner approached LPC at least twice to ask for resolution, first asking to keep those large casement windows, then asking to install double hung windows that were that size, which was larger than we think would have existed historically. Both of those requests were denied. Ultimately, what you see on the right there, a cut sheet for a double hung window was approved in 2024. It happened to be a Sierra Pacific aluminum clad window. That's what has been expected to be put in the front facade of this building for some time. While we have awaited that,
In March, next slide, please. The property owner reached out to the staff person who's managed this case, sent an email and asked if a different window could be substituted, which isn't that unusual a request. We didn't require that the Sierra Pacific window be the one that was used. So we received some pictures of a couple of other windows that appeared to be sitting in a warehouse with stickers on them, maybe in a different manufacturer. And we're asked if those could be used. It was a very kind of vague email, and the staff person responded, maybe if that complies with the approval, I think so. The next thing that we heard, windows were installed. And we did not feel that we had issued any approval. And the windows that were installed that we're about to talk about don't look like the windows that were in the email. So we informed the owner that we felt another violation had occurred. So if we look at this slide here, the reason that we're talking to you today, and I'm about to describe why we feel that we cannot support the windows that have been installed most recently, are that the only evidence we have of windows that existed historically on this property are the images I can show you here. We see over time that there are windows that have been installed in these openings on the front facade that have been 1/1 double hung windows of varying sizes. And on the side of the house, there was one original window that was 2/2. But all of the headers and the sills seem to align. We have some evidence of the types of windows that existed here historically. Ultimately, that Sierra Pacific window that was approved was thought to be the best replication, the best idea of what might have been in the house. It was a simple representation of the appropriate type of window here. Next slide, please. What has been installed is a prairie style window, a Marvin insert. Even the Marvin catalog itself calls it a prairie style window. In both of the openings on the front of the house, as I said, we were not shown, even in this informal email that was sent to us, we were not shown a cut sheet for this window. We don't approve an installation like this simply by a casual email being sent to us. We need to see a specification, and none of that occurred. So the property owner has asked for LPC to grant approval for this project. We are recommending denial because we are making a finding that neither of the two applicable guidelines are met. The one here suggests that the variety of window shapes, operations, and appearances should be limited. And previously on one of the slides, I showed you that there are already 3 styles of windows on the home: 1/1 picture window and casements with 4 panes. Prairie style does not exist on the home. Next slide, please. There's a second guideline that talks about there needed to be a historic precedent for window designs that relate to the architectural history of the home. This house was built in 1888. The prairie style wasn't introduced until 1900 to 1920. Has no relevance to this particular property. So again, staff does not support approval for this window. This has been an ongoing violation for some time. Next slide, please. Our recommendation is denial with a requirement that the approved 1/1 window, currently it happens to be a Sierra Pacific specification, would certainly be open to some other brand equivalent, should be required to be installed within 6 months.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions or clarifications for staff?
Question, was one of the issues the last time we saw this that it was an oversized window too? So they've made it smaller this time?
Yes. Initially when the violation occurred, the window opening size was enlarged, and the property owner came to asking to be able to retain that size and install a double hung, and the commission denied that. So this most recent installation did solve that issue. The window opening size has been reduced, but the wrong style of window has been installed.
That's not a casement with like a snap-on prairie thing, right?
No,
It's not,
that's,
okay.
it's simulated divided lights. It is an insert window though. I'm not sure what options that allows for altering this particular unit. Whether just the upper sash can be replaced, I'm not sure.
So the previously approved window was a 1/1.
Yes.
Correct,
The,
so.
the approved window that we're expecting to see installed is a 1/1 aluminum clad window.
Yeah, so thank you. And is that looks like it might not be a 50-50 split in what I'm seeing there.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, sorry, do you know if it was a 50-50 split of the double hung? The top
Yes.
sash was
Yes,
equal
the
to the
approved
bottom?
window, I believe so.
Okay. Do we know the material of the one that was installed? Did you tell us that? And I just-
It is an aluminum clad.
Okay.
Carbon window.
Any other questions? Thank you, Amy.
I wouldn't call for him.
Okay. Okay. If the applicant has joined us, it is your turn to present.
You're still not there, but I didn't want to skip it.
Okay, seeing as the applicant has not joined us, we will move into deliberation.
Seems like they're making it hard on themselves,
Yeah.
unnecessarily hard on themselves. I guess. It's pretty clear.
I'm happy they got the size right.
1 out of 2.
Yeah. So step in the right direction.
To me, I don't know if it would affect the motion, but what they need is a 1/1 window. So if they can modify the one they have, remove the mullions, I have no idea if that's possible.
I don't think so because it has the simulated divided lights, the grill between the two pieces of glazing. So you'd have to break.
But they could replace the glazing maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Like if they could, you know, the sort of means and methods, you know, they can replace the top sash or if they can replace the glazing or if they have to replace the whole window, but yeah, they don't want to.
They did the hard part.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we might be ready to make a motion.
I found the request on the screen so I can do it.
Okay.
All right. I move to deny the request to amend number 2024 COA 081 to allow the double hung prairie style windows that have been installed on the front facade at 2535 West River Drive as per design guidelines 2.4.2 and 2.4.8, presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report. The property owner is to install the windows represented in the COA as written within 6 months of this decision.
Thank you, Kelly. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Nick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Okay, our next application is amendment number 2024 COA 421 735 North Race Street, East 7th Avenue. Welcome back, Amy.
Thank you. And our applicant is here for this item. I'm presenting a violation that has occurred at 735 North Race Street, a property that contains a historic home built in 1937. Next slide, please. After a recent zoning change that allowed for ADUs to be built in this neighborhood, a unit was approved by LPC in 2024, along with a package of alterations to the primary structure on this property, including window replacement and reconfiguration, new egress windows and window wells, removal of chimneys, a skylight, and new site work such as fencing. The arrow on this site plan is pointing to the primary structure that is the subject of this discussion. Next slide, please. Roof material in this house was approved to be replaced. Although staff expressed concern over the proposed material replacement, which involved installing concrete tiles instead of the asphalt shingles that existed at the time, the commission approved the work. Permitted plans clearly indicated that even with the new material, existing roof structure would be preserved with sistered rafters. In this slide, references to sistered rafters and existing rafters being preserved in the issued permit set have been circled. Next slide, please. Construction began in May 2025. In early March 2026, the project was routed to Landmarks under a modified building permit described as a revision to the previous permit approval necessitated by the replacement of rafters to accommodate the increased structural load of the new roofing material. Landmarks contacted the applicant for more information, received no response until the end of April, when we were informed that the historic roof structure had been entirely demolished and reconstructed. We came to understand a building inspector had observed this in January 2026 and required this follow-up permit. However, unfortunately, the inspector may not have known that the property was designated. Regardless, at the end of April 2026, we worked with building inspections who placed a full stop work order on the primary structure, not the detached ADU, at Landmark's request to enforce the significant violation of the landmark ordinance. This stop work order remains in place. The roof structure is dried in, but the roof tiles have not been installed. Next slide, please. The historic rafters on the home were 2x6s that apparently rested on the masonry walls with virtually no eave overhang. When the reconstruction occurred, the rafters were increased to 2x10s. This had the effect of raising the roof plane, creating a thicker fascia on the north and south facades, increasing the height of the roof ridges by approximately 4 3/8 inches. It's unknown to staff whether there were other options that could have been discussed because that opportunity was not provided to us. Please note there are 2 letters in the application packet before you, written by the structural engineer that are dated in August and November of 2025 and addressed to the planning department, noting the insufficiency of the roof framing, but they were not actually provided to us. In any event, it is clear that by that time the roof framing had already been demolished. The change in the rafter dimension has changed the fascia profile in the north and south facades. So I know these images are small, but you can see how that dimension has changed from what is a fairly thin traditional profile to a more modern scale. These are not the street facing facades, so that's some consolation. But there was perhaps a different way that this could have been addressed, perhaps by reducing the rafter dimension or considering a lighter weight roof material, since that did end up having a consequence that was not presented to the commission at the time the decision was made, or perhaps detailing the new rafters so that tails were reduced where they bear on the masonry wall, if that was a possibility. But again, that was not discussed. The decision was made in the field without contacting the staff person, which is clearly not the right process. And the COA that was issued contains language stating that that is what is expected. So it's disappointing that this action was taken. Next slide, please. In addition to the change to the roof structure, the siding material in the gable ends was discarded and replaced, not accurately. In this image, you can see that there are band boards that have a curved detail that were reduced in height, and when they were replicated, it was done very clumsily. So the arrows there are trying to show you that the height of the band board where the radius occurs has been reduced to the top of that band board. On the right-hand side, you see what exists now. On the left is what existed previously. On the right-hand side, you can also see that on one end, there is a radius curve, and on the other end, you may or may not be able to perceive that it's more of an angle, an abrupt angle. On other gable ends, it's more obvious that there's just a ham-fisted effort to create that curve. It just was not done very well. In addition, the exposure of the siding was not replicated to the historic conditions. So that was an undesirable effect of the work that occurred. In the plan set that's before you, it's acknowledged, and there is a commitment to repair this outcome. Next slide, please. And another outcome of the work that's occurred here, this arrow points to a very small corner of the project where already before this began, there was a slight encroachment of the roof into the side setback and the bulk plane, which has now been increased because the height of the roof has increased. And so it is beyond the amount that can be approved administratively by the zoning administrator, and it needs to go to the Board of Adjustment. So there's an additional level of approval that is required even after you all discuss this project today. Next slide, please. The review that's occurring here is Landmark Preservation Commission's review of reconstruction of the roof and replacement of the roofing and siding. It isn't a demolition review because that is a review that occurs in contemplation of demolition. This is a review that is occurring obviously after the fact, which is unfortunate. As mentioned, a stop work order has been in place for over 2 months on this project and is not yet lifted. This Board of Adjustment review I mentioned is still pending, so there's further delay that will impact this property owner. The decisions that have been made here have had obvious consequences. None of us want to be in this position. So your role is to review the plans that are in front of you and ensure that the reconstruction of this roof is the best outcome that can be achieved. Staff is recommending approval. We don't see a benefit to suggesting that the roof structure be demolished and rebuilt to some dimension that gains a couple of inches closer to what it was historically. That could have further negative impacts on the historic structure. We find that the guidelines can be met with what's in place here now. Again, we suggest that the siding on the gable ends needs to be removed and replaced to match the historic condition more accurately. We are working with our building inspection team on some new ideas for pre-construction meetings with contractors on the site to improve communication again, to continue to reinforce that you must contact staff before proceeding with these kind of decisions. Our recommendation is that LPC approve the reconstructed roof and the replacement of the siding with the condition that it match the historic condition as represented in the application.
Thank you, Amy. Does the commission have any questions or clarifications for staff?
I do. Amy, you outlined lessons learned and steps to avoid this in the future. But in the current procedure, how should this and at what point should this have come back to Landmark staff?
Immediately in May 2025, as soon as the project started, apparently when demolition began, and there was an assessment that the rafters were not in the condition that was anticipated, there should have been a contact to Landmark staff to discuss what should we do next.
From the building department?
From the contractor and the architect to say, unexpected condition found. Here are our proposed solutions.
So it's on the owner to come back to Landmark first. There isn't a trigger within the building department in their inspection.
Not at all. not at all. It was a condition that the contractor or an architect discovered in the field, and they should have come to us with proposed
Got it.
alternatives.
Thank you.
Any other questions or clarifications?
And I thought I read, and now I can't find it, but that in the original approval, it was stated that the roof structure should remain, but that it was only the roofing material that was being replaced.
Yes, the representation was the existing rafters would all remain and new rafters would be sistered to them, adjacent to them.
Do we know why the sistering didn't happen?
The applicant can speak to that. There's information in the application that they were deficient, were sagging, and perhaps attaching to them really wasn't as feasible as was anticipated. And that, you know, these are things that do come up when working with a historic structure. We certainly would have been prepared for discussing alternatives.
Thank you.
And Conrad, thank you.
Good afternoon, I'm Ann Cuthbertson, I'm an architect. I would very much like to address why.
Hold on one second. We just want to be sure we have our timer up. Okay, we are ready.
So just to clarify, it was the plan all along to sister larger rafters alongside the existing roof rafters. And to Amy's point, that would have necessitated basically cutting the ends of the new rafters so that they would be the tops of the new rafters and the tops of the existing rafters were going to be in the same plane. And they would basically take a little clip off the bottom of the new rafter so that it would be resting on the top plate in the same position. During the demolition, as Amy alleged, there were a lot of things that were just much more deteriorated than we thought. And the windows is one of them. And so I was primarily focused during this period of time at documenting why the windows, which we were going to repair and put storm windows on, needed to be replaced. And that was my primary focus. I was present when they demonstrated that the sag in the existing roof rafters were quite sagged. In fact, they were probably one heavy snow away from failing. They were just, and the ridge board also was bowed. So the contractor demonstrated that if you put a new straight 2x10 rafter alongside a bowed 2x6, there wouldn't be any feasible way of fastening it. It basically would have just planed out, and the existing rafter was so bowed that it just wasn't feasible. They would have had to really almost prop up the entire roof structure, joist, rafter after rafter, and the ridge board in order to make the sistering happen. So the structural engineer and at that point a framing inspector agreed with the strategy to replace the rafters. They also said that there was no sheathing, roof sheathing on top of the existing rafters. It was just 2x8 planks basically, and those were also quite water damaged. So the decision was made, and I completely apologize that things didn't circle back through to this group or at least staff about the decision to just replace the rafters. In my defense, the contractor said that they were still going to clip the rafter ends so that it would bear in the same place as before. And then I think they just made the field decision, again in conjunction with the framing inspector, who had nothing to do with you all, to just bear them in a more straightforward way, which basically lifted the finished roof up off of the top plate of the masonry wall. That decision was made in the field. I wasn't involved with it. By the time I came out, and again, my focus now was primarily on the window replacement and documenting the pretty severe damage that once the window restoration team started to work on restoring the windows, they were just really, really not going to be able to be fixed. So in my defense, that was my primary focus during this whole period of time. I also did not realize that the whole roof assembly was, 4 inches taller in the air. I did not realize that had been done. And then I was appalled to see the replacement of the siding. I couldn't agree more with staff that was a very poor attempt to match the historic, particularly the curve on the band board below. I did not know that material had been replaced, had been taken off and replaced. The project had come to kind of a complete halt, waiting for the approval on the window. And so I wasn't coming by the house. There was also a delay on the ADU, which I won't bore you with, but there were several months there where we were not meeting on the site. There was no progress being made on the project. And all I can say is I can't explain why the contractor thought that the work done on these gable ends was remotely acceptable. When we brought it up to them, they said that they had been trying to use a hardy board material for that band and just could not get the elliptical shape with that material. They readily admit that they could replicate it in wood, and they have saved the left side band board from the original material that was taken off. The reason that they gave to me why all of this material had been taken off and replaced is that they were trying to remove it to install sheathing. Again, there was no sheathing underneath the original siding, and as they tried to pry each of the boards off, things were just breaking. Again, that was a decision that was made without talking to me about it, without circling back through to staff, and certainly without coming back through you. And I very much apologize that I think the contractor was just trying to solve problems as they arose in a way that made sense to them from a construction standpoint. And they were not aware that all of these things were important to all of you. And I was not meeting on site the way I normally do once a week. So my apologies for all of this happening. I again think the contractor just thought that they were doing what made sense as each decision needed to be made. But certainly they now realize all of these decisions should have been circled back through the staff that had worked so diligently, particularly on the window replacement issue, that all of these things should have been. And so I apologize on their behalf that things did not circle back through this body. I'm confident that we can replicate it's like a half ellipse on the band board, and we're proposing making that out of wood. We're also proposing that be the full height before the siding begins, as you can see on the image to the left. And then we are proposing using the hardy artisan series, so it replicates the shadow line on the clapboard siding, and it needs to be 6.5 inches visible height. So close but no cigar on what they did, and that they are completely prepared to take that off and replace both the clapboard siding and the band board to be much more carefully matching what had been removed. I just want to clarify one thing, and it's a minor point, but there's an implication in the staff report that the new rafters were because of the concrete tile roofs, and that's not the case. We were always proposing sistering in the 2x10, both to give enough room for insulation to meet energy code, and because any roof structure, concrete or otherwise, would need more support than the original 2x6 roof rafters that were only 24 inches on center. That wouldn't have been sufficient, even if we were replacing with an asphalt shingle roof. That wouldn't have been enough. So that wasn't a change made in relation to the concrete tile roof. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do commissioners have any questions or clarifications for the applicant?
I just have a question. Just for our understanding and for future, can you disclose the contractor's name?
Yeah, it's TMD. They're out of Boulder. I've worked with them on dozens of projects, and the foreman on this particular job is new to them and obviously not as well versed in working in historic districts. But the firm as a whole, we've worked on a number of projects in historic districts and historic buildings. So I was surprised that we ran into these problems. Or lack of process, I guess. I was quite surprised by that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just say we do appreciate you coming here. Given our previous.
I know, right? No, of course, and I very much appreciate all of the staff efforts on this, and again, my apologies on behalf of the contractor for how these decisions were made without circling back through this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, do you have any comments? I would say the first thing that comes to my mind is I think that the solution that staff proposes in their report seems to be the best solution, the best solution forward. I agree that I don't think there'd be anything to gain by asking them to reconstruct the roof, just to gain that original height of the roof. So instead of backtracking, this seems like a solution that aligns with the guidelines, that the owner and the project partners are willing to make amends and correct the work that was done. So I support the recommendation of the staff report.
Yeah, I'll just say that I've run into the issue where, you know, especially when you're adding insulation to the top of the roof, that you often have the profile of the eave or the rake or whatever changes, right, to meet current energy codes, or to upgrade performance, energy performance, or prevent ice damming, or a number of other things, right? And so that, I don't think that's really an uncommon thing to occur, and I don't really feel like it's that big of a deal. And they're probably gonna have a lot better structurally performing roof for a hell of a lot longer than what they would have had trying to sister things together. So I really don't take any exception to that, and totally agree with, redoing those gable ends. So I mean, also in agreement with the recommendations by staff.
I agree, don't have anything further to add.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Just
Sometimes.
I can read it. Madam Chair, I move to approve with conditions an amendment to 2024 COA-421 for the reconstruction of the roof and recladding of the gable ends at 735 North Race Street as per design guidelines 2.2.1, 2.2.3, 2.2.4, 2.2.8, 2.3.3, and 2.5.1. Presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report with the condition that, one, the siding that is currently in all gable ends is to be removed and replaced to match the historic condition as depicted in the application.
Thank you, Nick. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Thank you, Elizabeth. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, and our last item. Moving on to business items. These are items that require a vote and action from the commission. These items may include a presentation from an applicant and landmark staff. The chair will announce each business item on the agenda. Staff will introduce items and commissioners may ask questions. If applicable, the applicant will have a presentation which will be limited to 10 minutes and commissioners may question the applicant. We'll have staff clarifications if necessary. The commission will deliberate, make a motion and vote. So we have 1840 North Green Street, Cathedral High School.
Good afternoon, Commission. I'm Becca Deershaw. I'm a senior city planner with Landmark Preservation. I work on the planning and regulatory teams, so you don't see me as often. But I'm here today to talk to you about the National Register nomination for Cathedral High School. Just as a reminder, in accordance with Colorado's certified local government guidelines, as a CLG, the city of Denver is required to review nominations that are going to the National Register of Historic Places. You're here to review and comment as you would like. We had an earlier nomination on the consent agenda, but we did want to bring this one to you for a little further comment and discussion. And as another reminder, the National Register does have different criteria for significance than Denver landmarks do. So they're looking at 4 criteria in areas of history, important people, architecture, or prehistory or archaeological significance. And a property only needs to meet 1 of 4 of these criteria. Also important to note that Cathedral High School is currently listed on the City of Denver's neglected and derelict properties list, and it has been vacant for many years. This National Register nomination will make the site eligible for federal and state historic rehabilitation tax credits for any future redevelopment projects that may be coming through. So Cathedral High School and Convent is a 3-story Spanish Gothic Revival building at 1840 Grant Street, located on the southeast corner of 19th Avenue and Grant Street in downtown Denver. The site is 2 buildings connected by a 2-story open gallery around a centralized courtyard. So you can sort of see in this image here, the 2 buildings connected with the little peak of the courtyard below. Cathedral High School is a very important site for Denver's historic Catholic community, as a parish school and convent directly connected to the cathedral and parish of the Immaculate Conception, which is over on Colfax. Cathedral High School is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places under Criterion A for in education and association with religion, as it embodies the development of Denver's Catholic schools. It's further eligible under Criterion A for social history and women's history as an extant convent in the Denver Catholic community that provided a large number of women throughout the 20th century with educational opportunities and religious purpose. The period of significance for the education and women's history dates from 1921, when the buildings were constructed, to 1973, when the school and convent ceased operations. Cathedral High School is further eligible under the National Register under Criterion C for architecture. The building represents the work of master architect Harry James Manning. Through his association with Denver's most prominent and wealthy citizens, Manning designed many important private residences, churches, commercial buildings, and institutional and civic buildings as well. His Cathedral High School and convent embodies the distinctive characteristics of the Spanish Gothic Revival style. That period of significance is 1921, when the building was constructed. Well, the period of significance is just 1921, when the building was constructed. There were some later additions to the buildings in the 1950s, but they still overall retain their integrity. So normally we would say we would recommend a forwarding of this nomination to the State Review Board with no further comments. But Brittany, if you'll change the next slide, we did want to talk about a potential proposed amendment to the nomination. Cathedral High School undoubtedly has a remarkable history spanning over 100 years. The early history of the school as a site of rigorous education and religious dedication for women is thoroughly detailed and documented in the nomination. However, staff is recommending that the National Register nomination be amended to include significance under criterion A for social history, specifically LGBTQ history, and to include a more detailed information about the role of the convent, which was later turned into Stetton House during the AIDS crisis of the late 1980s and early 1990s. Stetton House played an important role in the HIV/AIDS crisis in Denver, which largely affected members of the LGBTQ community. Nuns at the convent cared for over 400 patients during the crisis, many of whom succumbed to their illness while living at Stetton House. Not only did the nuns step in to care for patients while the government did not, but many in the Denver community rallied around Stetton House, raising money for the initial conversion and subsequent upkeep. Over $500,000 was raised to turn this into a hospice for AIDS patients. It's remarkable that a religious institution that rejected homosexuality instead provided a place for AIDS patients to be cared for in their final days. And as a result, the site probably holds a bitter place in the memory for many of the LGBTQ community, complicated between feelings of rejection and hurt due to institutional homophobia, but also this sense of being cared for in a time of crisis. As we all know, LGBTQ history is underrepresented on the National Register, and this site tells a very important piece of that history, illustrating how the Denver community experienced and responded to the AIDS crisis in all of its complicated facets. Landmark staff is aware that a separate state register nomination is coming before the State Review Board concurrently with this National Register nomination. And this state register nomination includes this expanded area of significance. So we would recommend that the National Register nomination be amended to mirror the state registration nomination. And just for your heads up, as a CLG, you do not get to review the state register nominations. You only review the National Register nominations, which is why we thought it was important to bring this before you today to illustrate the difference between those two. We also have Damien online from History Colorado. He is the program manager for the National Register with History Colorado, and I believe he wrote these nominations. So if you guys have any questions about the nomination itself, he'd probably be a really good resource. But that's our recommendation.
Thank you, Becca. Does the commission have any questions or clarifications?
I have a comment. It would be good to pronounce this correctly. It is Seton House, named after Elizabeth Ann Seton. She's a saint, and she is the patron saint of Catholic educators and was one of the founding principles behind Catholic parochial schools across the country.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate that. I've only ever read it.
16 years of Catholic school, all the way through.
Finally came in handy.
That's your infotainment for the day.
I have a question about just the general condition. Was there a structures assessment? Was there an assessment done on the property itself at all through this process?
I don't think through this process. Damien might have some more answers. There are definitely photographs taken throughout the project, but I don't think a historic structures assessment is part of the nomination.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it should be or anything. I'm just my only concern would be if you nominated it, if it was nominated, that it's in good enough condition to be restored or refurbished or whatever direction they take, and it's not so derelict that it would be so costly to come back to life, right?
Right, so this is just a National Register nomination. It's not a Denver Landmark nomination, so we would not do any review of that It's only an honorary designation, it doesn't preclude demolition.
It would not, so even if it was on the National Register, you could still demo it?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it will allow someone to apply for tax credits should they want to.
Okay, I didn't realize that,
Yeah.
so that would be my, yeah, okay, cool.
State and National Register nominations, designations don't permit demolition, only local.
Only local.
They're written into local ordinance is why.
We would love to see this come through as a Denver landmark at some point, but maybe after the renovation, if there is one.
Yeah, I just wanna like make it viable, so hopefully somebody does something with it one day.
Okay, well, thank you, Becca. And Damien, we'll get the timer up, but we are ready for you if you would also like to present.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. I'm Damien Petrotta. I'm the Senior National and State Register Historian with History Colorado. As the state, we are neutral on this because we can't promote it but obviously since we wrote the nomination and we are coming to you, we are hopeful that this moves forward. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the nomination. As Becca mentioned, this was moving forward concurrently with the state register nomination to include LGBTQ plus history. This would push the period of significance from 1991 to 2003 in addition to 1921 to 1973. So it does extend the period of significance. The reason it was not originally included was because of that period of significance. The National Register requires 50 years or longer, and the state register requires 30 years or longer. There are exceptions to that rule. There's what's called Criterion Consideration G, which allows significant items and criterion to be included past the 50-year mark and more recent. And I am supportive of this nomination, of this change to include the LGBTQ plus history in the National Register nomination.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions or clarifications for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much, Damien.
Thank you.
Does anyone, as far as deliberation goes, does anyone have any other comments or thoughts that they wanted to share regarding the recommendation?
I think it meets the criteria and I support the amendment.
Agreed. Okay, then would someone like to make a motion?
I'd love to. I move to recommend that the National Register nomination for Cathedral High School, Seton House, and at 1840 North Grant Street be forwarded to the Keeper of the National Register of Historic Places with the recommended edits to add local significance under criterion A for social history, LGBTQ plus history, and include a period of significance for LGBTQ plus history from 1991 to 2003 per presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Jane. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Kelly. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. And with that being unless we have anything else. With that being our last agenda item, the meeting is adjourned at 3:47 p.m.
Before you hang up, Taylor. So I know this is a long meeting, but exciting news that never happens. We will be canceling the next meeting. So you are all free 2 weeks from now.
There's no benefit. You're gonna come sit here anyway.
No, I was gonna miss it. That was one I was gonna miss. I get no credit.
Bye, great to see everybody.
Bye.